Hey everybody, happy Valentine's Day. To honor this wonderful holiday, I want to talk about the most iconic couples in Vanderpump Rules history, most iconic relationships that have ever existed to honor Valentine's Day. First off, right off the bat, I have to start with Jax and Laura Lee. There was something about these two people when they were in the same room that the sexual chemistry radiated off them like a 400-degree oven. They couldn't walk for 5 steps without going into a broom closet or a janitor's closet and having sex. They would have sex in toilets, they would have sex in broom closets, they would have sex in the restaurant bathrooms, they would have sex in gas stations. They were just so attracted to each other that it was the hottest thing I've ever seen. That was season 1, Jax and Laura Lee. All right, who's next? The next most iconic, wonderful sexual relationship on Vanderpump Rules to honor this wonderful holiday is Jax and Kristen. Who can forget when Jax and Kristen finally settled all of their scores and they made love 2 times? They had so much sexual chemistry throughout the entire show. Every time they looked at each other, you could tell that they wanted to have sex with each other so bad. When we finally realized that they had had sex, there was sort of a collective gasp and sort of a relief that these two had finally had sex since their chemistry was off the charts. So Jax and Kristen, one of the hottest couples of all time, and I'm so glad they got to finally have sex a couple times. Who is next? I cannot let a Valentine's Day go by without saying Ken and Lisa. Hey everybody, happy Valentine's Day again. I want to continue our discussion of the most iconic VPR relationships because I feel like I left maybe a few off. The first one I wanted to sort of put a little spotlight on was Rob and Sheena. I don't know if you guys remember it, but when Rob and Sheena were on screen, it was one of the most dynamic and powerful couples I have ever seen. The way they looked at each other was basically a Valentine's Day greeting card. Rob basically looked like a cartoon character with big hard eyes every time he looked at Sheena. I loved seeing them on screen. I thought that they had a very interesting dynamic that lasted for maybe 6 months. And just full disclosure, I did see Rob at a restaurant in Big Bear one time, but that has no bearing at all on my decision to include him and Sheena as part of this power list. Next up, in terms of the most iconic relationships in VPR history, one of my other VPR head friends alerted me to the fact that James and Kristen were sort of an iconic duo, and I think that is definitely true. If I think back on James and Kristen, I've never seen such a sexually charged relationship in history as these two had. Anytime they were on screen together, you knew that within 5 minutes they wanted to rush out of the room and have sex with each other if they could. James and Kristen fit together so perfectly, both volatile, both emotional, but both so sexually charged that they made such a dynamic appearance on screen. I felt like it was almost 2 meteors that collided in space, and once they hit, it released a bunch of sexual energy all throughout the world. So they have to be spotlighted here today. Next up, on the most amazing sexual creatures in VPR history for Valentine's Day, I want to spotlight the one that you all know and love and the one that you're thinking about this entire video. It's Tom Sandoval and Ariana. They met back in the day, but then season 3 they started dating, and it was like they had found soulmates in each other. They were having so much fun. They were so loving to each other. They made Kristen the most jealous she's ever been in her entire life, and they have remained an amazing couple all throughout these years. They still love each other. They're still so sweet to each other, and I'm so proud of them. So Tom Sandoval and Ariana, you get the most iconic VPR relationship in history among the Jax and Laura Lee and Jax and Kristen and James and Kristen. Okay, love you all so much. Happy Valentine's Day.